So nice to meet everybody. Just to sort of introduce who we've got on the call today. We've got myself, my name's Dan, and we have Savina as well. So both of us, we work in the professional services team, just as consultants. We are kind of managing the sort of the onboarding and the implementation of clients to SpotlerSocial, whether that's some of you might be new onboarding clients or whether you're migrating from our previous tool. Today, we're going to be going through the SpotlerSocial platform. Just a bit of background of what SpotlerSocial is, in case some of you aren't completely aware. SpotlerSocial is a new platform we've recently launched in the UK. So it's been running in sort of the Netherlands for a while, but it's recently sort of launched in the UK. And it's designed to be a centralized place to manage all of your social media. So there's a few different modules that come as part of the platform. You've got the publishing, which is all to do with your social publishing, so managing your content that you want to go out to different channels, whether that's sort of publishing straight away or scheduling it and then reporting on how well that's doing, so how many comments you're getting, how many likes. That's all of the publishing module. You've then got webcare. Webcare is the sort of social engagement side of the platform. So it'll be one central place where you'd have all of your accounts linked. You're able to access all of the comments you're getting. So if it's Facebook and you've got a post going out, if someone comments on it, you're able to see it there. Likewise, if you've got a tweet and somebody sort of tweets back at you, you're able to see that. Also, all the sort of private messages that are coming from those channels, one centralized place rather than having to have multiple tabs open. And the final section of the platform is the media monitoring. So this is all to do with social listening. So you would set it up to look for certain keywords or hashtags. That might be your brand, maybe one of your competitors, maybe a product or a service that you're offering. You're then able to use various sort of report templates on how well that's doing across anywhere across the internet, but also different print media outlets as well. So that's a sort of pretty cool tool. Today, we're going to focus on the publishing module. There'll be sort of different sessions running for the other ones, so look out for some invites coming for those, but today is sort of mainly focused on publishing. I'm going to be sort of demoing and training the main features of the platform, so I'll shortly be sharing my screen. Savina is going to be sitting in the background, sort of ready to answer any questions you have, so feel free to use the sort of the chat and the question functionality. You can either pop in a question to mean you can answer it real time, or maybe if you just write a note on it saying that we can always have a Q&A at the end, that you're able to sort of come on mic and we can sort of dive into anything deeper there. So I am going to start by sharing my screen. But there you go. You should be able to see it. Maybe stop me in a minute or so if nobody can see it. But yeah, this is hopefully you guys have all managed to log in. I believe a lot of you have been able to log in when I've been looking through your accounts, which is great. That's kind of the first step. Feel free to follow along, sort of have it open the tab and have the webinar open another one and sort of follow on as we go. The main page you're going to get to as you log into the platform is most likely going to be this one. So a lot of you guys just have the publishing tool. So this is the main page you're going to get to. In terms of navigation of the platform, along the top bar, this top bar is going to go with you everywhere you are on the platform, whether that's in sort of different modules as well. So you can always hop between the two of them. The account that I'm sort of in at the moment to sort of demo and train you guys on has only access to webcare and publish. So depending on the license that you guys have set up or purchased with us, these are the different modules you're going to access to. So at the beginning, I was talking about how you've got publish, webcare, and media monitor. Your license is going to dictate which ones you have access. You can quickly switch between the two of them, or the three of them, which is nice and easy. So that is there. If we follow along to the right, you've got product tours here. So if there's any new features in the platform that are launched, this is where you will see them. So there'll be a tour that goes with it just to introduce you to that new feature. So always look out for anything new or any enhancements here. Next thing, you've got a notifications bell. So at various points across the platform, there'll be notifications sent out to your user if it's relevant. That could be a post that's failed to schedule, a post that needs your approval before it goes live, or maybe something's been assigned to you. So this is where you will see all of those. Next along, we have the sort of language. So the platform is a multilingual one. So if you've got colleagues that would prefer it in their own native language, you can always swap between them nice and easy. We will be, I think for everyone, the default we've set up is English, which is probably relevant, but you can always change this on a user preference, which I'll show you shortly. Nice and easy to swap between the two of them, or between any of them, and there we go. Next along, you've got the sort of the status of the user. This isn't too relevant in scope of today's session for publishing, but the web care module is all about your engagement. So responding to comments you're getting, responding to private messages. Within the reporting of that, you're able to see who's been online, so which of your colleagues, which agents have been online, and then how long sort of active time it took you to respond to messages. So that's how you would have sort of the online status. But as I was saying, not too relevant for today's session. The very top right, I'm just going to move this annoying overlay. On the top right is, you should see your username. So this is the username you have to log into the platform. And if you click it, you're able to access all of the different settings for the platform. What you're seeing at the top right is the options available to a marketing manager. So what we'll look at shortly in terms of the roles, you've been deployed to 2 different roles. You've got a marketing admin role and a marketing user role. What we're looking at is the view from a marketing admin. So it'll be slightly different, slightly more permissions that are granted for an admin compared to a base user. We'll go through each of these in a second, but these are all of the main features that you'll need to be sort of utilizing when sort of configuring the platform and going forward. Next section, you've got sort of 3 options. The bottom one you can ignore, that's a legacy feature, but these top two are very handy. There's a quite extensive help center for you. So if you're navigating the platform and you think, how do I do a certain thing? How do I schedule a post? How do I sort of reply to comments, whatever it might be? You can always come here and just search for it. There's also a bugs thing here. So if you're noticing something not working on the platform, the first place is to sort of come to here to see if it's an outstanding bug awaiting fix, and you can see the progress on that, which is nice and handy. If we go back to the platform, the second thing is updates and changes. So anytime there's a sort of release of the platform, that could include stuff like enhancements or improvements, bug fixes. This is where you're going to be seeing those. So just keep an eye on this for sort of new stuff, but there will be sort of emails going out with the release notes, etc. That's good to see a log of what's happened in the past. That's the platform. Then the remaining options are fairly self-explanatory. So information about your account, so you get an audit of sort of what you've been doing, and if you want to change your password, that's where you do it, or log out of the platform. We're going to start off by looking at each of these ones here. So these are all different settings options you have access to. By clicking into any of these, it's going to take you to the main settings page. So what you'll notice is the setting options you've got along here correlate with what you have access to up here in the menu. As I was saying, this is what a marketing admin will see. So if I was a user, I might not necessarily have access to all of these, but this is what the sort of everybody's going to have access to in terms of an admin role. The users, nice and easy. This will be people that have their sort of unique access to the platform. You've got a couple different options here on the users. You can either edit them, you can delete them, or you can remove their access. Do it here, so you can disable them. This is handy if you've got maybe a contractor coming in that you don't necessarily want to delete their whole account, but you just want to deactivate it so they can't access for a certain period. To add a user, nice and easy. You can just click add user up here. The way you probably notice logging into the platform, it's not a platform based upon email address. So the unique identifier for you logging in isn't the email address. Instead, it's a username. So make it something which is relevant. Feel free to use the email address. That's not a problem at all. But I think the naming conventions we tend to use is your first initial followed by your last name. So for me, it'd be D Coates. That would be your username. The email address, you have to enter an email address. This would be where you're going to receive any sort of email communications. That could be the activation link to your account. That could be something that's been assigned to you, or you need to sort of complete a certain action. This is the email address that would receive those messages. You've then got basic settings such as the mobile number, any suffixes, sort of first name, last name. The only ones that are needed here are first name and last name. You can choose different avatars. So when stuff is done around the platform, maybe for reporting and stuff, for the agents, you're able to assign them a little avatar, maybe a picture of them, which just makes the reporting a bit more personable, which is a nice feature to have. You then need to choose the rights for this person, and we'll look shortly of how we set up roles and you assign them to the users. But essentially, you're going to have marketing admin and marketing user by default. So select which one you want that user to have. You've then got a few messages and communication preferences. So a notification internally if messages are being attributed to yourself. So if something's been assigned to you by your colleague that you need to focus on or to complete, if you have this ticked, that will come as a notification up there. You've then got stuff like if you want emails to be sent to you. If a planned message isn't published, so say you've scheduled something to go out and there was a problem with the connection to your social channel, you want to receive an email about that. This might only be relevant to certain users, maybe the marketing admins, maybe a marketing user doesn't matter about that and it needs to go to someone higher up. So that's a per user preference. If there's a problem with the account that's connected to it, again, you can receive a notification via email there. Won't go into this too much, but just to give you an overview of what this is more for the web care, so not in scope of today, but essentially anytime you reply to a web care is all about replying to the comments and the private messages that you're getting across multiple channels. You're able to choose a per platform suffix. So sort of the example I usually use is when you sort of tweet a corporate account and someone replies to you, you always see at the end, which is like -DC or the initials of the agent who's replying to you. That could be for internal monitoring of who's replying to the comments, but for a Twitter, for example, it could just be Dan. So every message that you reply, you don't have to worry about, or the agent doesn't have to worry about putting their name on it. They can just do -Dan, and that comment will automatically get appended with -Dan or whatever it might be internally. Send email isn't something you guys need to worry about too much when creating users. The only thing you need to be aware of is choosing the second option. If your organization has sort of high secure emails, sometimes they can sort of be blocked when it's just coming from the base one. So if that's the case for you guys, then the second option is the one you want to choose. And the final thing to be aware of is the preferences. So we were saying about how you've got different modules. This is when you first log into the platform, or this user logs into the platform, which module do they want to have access to, or what page do they want to go to. In most cases, it's going to be the publish one, which will take them when they log in directly to the publish module. And the language of the user. So you can always change your user, sort of the language of the platform at the top right. But if you want to choose a certain preference, so it always defaults to this is how you can set that on a per user basis. When you create a user, it's not going to automatically send the activation link that you probably have all received to you. What you'll need to do is the user will be created, and then you come out to here and you click send user new activation link. So this allows you to get everybody up and running, get all the users set up with their roles, have it ready to go, and then sort of pull the trigger, send the activation link. They will then receive the link to set up their account, choose their password, and access the account. The next thing we're going to look at is the roles. So the roles are accessed via the settings menu and then roles on the left-hand side. Within each of your accounts, you're going to have two, which you can see here, a marketing admin role and a marketing user. If you click into any of these roles, you can sort of edit all of the different permissions that sit underneath them. So what we'll go down, there's a whole heap of roles. A lot of these won't be relevant to you because you don't have the modules for these within your license, but where it will come into play is this publishing thing. So these, we'll go through them, but it will start to make more sense as we go through publishing, how they kind of link up. But for example, if you don't want someone to be able to tag certain messages or submit messages, this is where you're going to come and sort of maybe you decide to create a new role entirely for a contractor, for example. You then might want to allow different permissions for that contractor and assign that role to it. So you're free to create as many roles as you want, to choose all the permissions that sort of fit your requirements. So you can easily just sort of change these and then just save down the bottom as well. So you're going to have two, marketing admin and marketing user. The only difference between marketing admin that we've got set up is marketing admin has access to users and roles. So anybody that you provide the marketing user role to isn't going to be able to manage roles and manage different users. The next thing we're going to look at is the accounts. So on the email that I sent you guys, there was instructions on how to sort of add your social accounts. I believe a lot of you have been able to do that successfully, which is great. But just to sort of run through that again, nice and easy, just access the accounts up here and you choose link account. The option you need to then be aware of is choosing the different type of account that you're trying to link. So that could be your Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, maybe you want to link your Trustpilot or Google My Business. All of these accounts types are accepted and sort of available in the platform. You then need to choose who you want to have access to this. So if I'm logged in as sort of my user, if I only ever want myself to be able to sort of post and schedule to this channel, then I'm going to choose the only available to me role. Or I can say available for the following roles, and I say anybody with marketing admin or anybody with a marketing user is able to have access to this within publishing. They're able to schedule posts, they're able to publish posts on it if they've got the right permission, and they're able to report and see the statistics of how this account is performing. So relevant in some cases you might literally want to have only your account or your user be able to use this account. You've then got different UTM coding down the bottom here. So this allows you, when you've got a sort of piece of content or a post going out to this channel, if you want to append it with a sort of a UTM source or a UTM campaign or content, whatever the UTM sort of might be, by default. So you're not going to have to select it. You can always overwrite these, which we'll look at in sort of publishing. But by default, if you forget to add any UTMs, then this is where you can have them to automatically be appended to any link that goes out from this channel. Campaign source, you might choose to have a SpotlerSocial or SS. That would then sort of be in your links. If someone clicks through on your content, then that could go to something like Google Analytics, so you can tell where the resource came from. And then all you have to do is continue with Facebook. That will take you, so for Facebook, you've got to continue with Facebook. If you swap it to Twitter, it will say link Twitter account. That will then open up a new tab, go to the relevant social channel or the social platform, follow the wizard in their world, redirect you back to the account, and that will all be linked successfully. If you click an account, you will then be able to see a breakdown of how many Facebook accounts you've got linked, how many LinkedIn accounts, or if you've got any of the other channels. You've got an unlimited amount. There's no limit within your license of how many you could have. You could have, if you've got multiple Facebook accounts for each of your different brands, this is where you can sort of choose those. The final thing we're going to look at in terms of the accounts is the broadcast group. So this is where you can choose you can set up a particular group that is going to bring in multiple different social channels. So maybe you want to, and this will make sense when we go into publishing, where you have to choose each of your individual sort of social channels that you want to post to. You could have one Facebook, one LinkedIn, but what's an ease of use thing is if you create a broadcast group, add each of those into there, you then have to just select the broadcast group. So I could say Ed, one of our other colleagues, and the Spotler store, that is now a broadcast group. So I can choose to, instead of sending to individual accounts, I can just send to the broadcast group, and that will go to each of the channels that are contained within those. You can always come back and add more into those or remove ones that aren't relevant. Next, we'll look at tags. So tags are used within both the webcare module and the publishing. You can see webcare down here, and the publishing, which is labeled as campaign. This tags allows you to tag each of the pieces of content that you post with a certain keyword. That would be if it's a B2B sort of campaign or piece of content you're running, or a B2C, or maybe a Christmas post, something like that. This then allows you to easier see what you've got going out, what you've had going out in the past, and then also statistics. So if you've marked all of your content as or your posts as B2B, you could then report specifically on your B2B campaigns and how many comments and likes and stuff those have been getting. Nice and easy to create a new one. You can just click create tab. Oh, I've been logged out. Bear with me 1 second. Apologies for that. If we go back to tags. So you can easily create a new one, or you can edit an existing one. You can provide it with a color, which will make sense as we go through sort of the reporting and the content creation. Just make it a bit more visual and easier to see. Workflow, we're gonna come back to later on. I think it'd be easier for you guys to see the basic process of scheduling and publishing posts, and then we can go through how content approval comes into it. So let's go over to the publish module. So the first page you're going to get to when you go to publish is this content calendar here. This is going to show you by default the sort of the month that we're currently in. So what you're seeing is May 2023. You're able to see a visual representation of all the posts that you've sort of had going out in the past across all of your channels. You can also see if you've got some content scheduled to the future, you're able to see all of those pieces of content as well. You can change the view. So if you're only interested in the current week view, then you're able to see sort of filter it down for that. You can search for a particular post. So if any contains Spotler, that's going to then filter it down to only ones that contain the keyword or whatever search filter you've applied to it. You can expand as well, which I think is a nicer view to be able to see them in sort of here, so you can see exactly the content, any tags that have gone along with this specific pieces of content as well. If I change it back to the month view, and again, you can see all of these sort of the content that was going out onto which channel. On the left-hand side of each of these pieces of content, if I collapse them, you can see a slight bar. This is so what tags have been applied to this specific piece of content is then going to show you the color, which we just looked at and sort of in the tag configuration, so you can really easily visualize what this piece of content is for. So if you've got B2B set up as a light green sort of tag, then you're able to see that, break it down for all of the B2B ones there. The final thing on the top right is you've got synchronized messages. So this is something you'll want to do sort of on a periodic sort of basis, or when you first start using the platform. What this is going to do is reach out. So all of the accounts that you've got set up, we're going to import the last 2 months of organic content. So that could be content that's gone out directly from LinkedIn or from SpotlerSocial. It's going to import all of those previous posts and make them available within this content calendar, and then we'll start picking up on all of those results. So the likes, the clicks, all of that will then be start to receive for those pieces of content. It's a nice and quick process. Takes a couple minutes, so it's not something that's going to take a while or disrupt anything in the platform. On the left-hand side is all of the filtering options for the content calendar. If you want to filter it for maybe only messages that have been published in the past, or ones that are planned, or anything that has failed. And again, content approval, which we'll look at towards the end of the session, you're able to filter it for all of the pieces of content that are waiting to be approved. Again, all of the different accounts you've got access to. If you're only interested in seeing stuff in the content calendar that is going out on the Spotler store, you can easily filter it down and make your view more relevant to yourself. You can add different accounts as well. You can remove different accounts, so nice and easy. This is where the tags come into play in terms of the content calendar. So any of the tags that you've got set up, so B2B, for example, you're able to filter it and say, only show me within this content calendar the content that's gone out or scheduled, which has a sort of the B2B tag within it. And there's other stuff as well. So message owners, so who created the post. If you want to see what was created from a certain agent or a certain user, you can filter it down. And yeah, quite self-explanatory, the different platforms. So if you're only interested in Facebook, because that's what you manage, or one of your colleagues only does Twitter, then they can just select the Twitter and only see the Twitter content that's gone out. The last thing within the content calendar is down here. You can see there's an option at the bottom right called Add New Event. This is where you can add a sort of placeholder within the content calendar. You can choose a name. So let's say SpotlerSocial training. You can choose the date range that it's going for. So if we just had it for today, you can have it with a certain tag. So the idea of this is maybe if you put a sort of an event in the calendar for next week and as a reminder that you need to do something, or maybe you've got a conference running in 3 weeks and you want to highlight that you need certain pieces of content ready and scheduled for that date, it just allows you to put a reminder into the calendar. So if I just do B2B and save that, and you can see on today that we've got a SpotlerSocial training event. So this is just a reminder of an event happening. It could be whatever's relevant for your requirements. Next up, we're going to look at actually scheduling the sort of the content. So there's two different ways you can get into the content creation. You've got a plus icon up here, which takes you to the new message, or you can click down the bottom right, which is create new message here. It goes to exactly the same place. This is the content creation screen. The first thing you're going to want to do is use this add accounts or group here. So this is all of the accounts that you've got access to in terms of your role. As we looked at when you were adding and sort of linking the social profiles, you could choose different users or different roles that have access to those. Whatever access to that the user you're logged in at is going to show here. So if I want to sort of send to my own LinkedIn and I want to send to the Spotler store, I can. You can have multiple different ones there. You can have multiple LinkedIn. You could have a complete mixture of different channels. You can remove them if you don't think it's relevant for those, or you can add the groups here. So instead of having to select them individually, if I've got a test group set up that has multiple different channels in, rather than having to remember what I want to send to, I can just select that, and that will bring in anything that is within the test group that we set up. For this example, I'm just going to do it to our LinkedIn and to our Facebook. Then it comes down to sort of managing what the content you want to display. So it could be, hello, this is a test post. This would be whatever you want to do. You could include some hashtags, you can include whatever you want. You've got emojis as well. So if you wanted to make it a bit more sort of personable or anything, there's a large array of sort of stuff you can choose to do there. You can also include a link. So if I do something like here, what this should do is it's recognized that a link has been included in the content. You've then got stuff like the title that you want to include. And on the right hand side, what you're able to see is a direct preview of, depending on the channels that you've selected, whether that's LinkedIn and Facebook, you can see what it's going to look like for those. So a live preview of when this does go out to the platform, what an individual is going to be able to see. So that's helpful if you want to sort of make sure it's appearing exactly how you want it. It's good to have a live view, and you can see the sort of the link, how on different channels that link is going to appear. So for LinkedIn, it will appear like this, whereas for Facebook, it will appear with the image above and the content below. It's recognized that you've got a link in there. You can choose the title that you want. So this sort of bold section here, maybe you want it to display slightly different. You could change it to test title, whatever you want, and you can see that's live updated on the right hand side. Likewise for the description, this is only applicable to Facebook, so you won't get a description on a LinkedIn or maybe a Twitter. You can choose test, whatever there, and that will update it there. Next, you can see all of the image sort of properties that you have available. So anytime that you do put a link into your piece of content, it will automatically sort of render the content of that, and it will scrape all of the images that are available on that web page, and it will come up with a preview of those images here. So you don't always have to sort of have an image available. It will automatically go and get those. So maybe you want to include a GIF if something's on the site, that could be included in the content, or any of the sort of ones we've been able to scrape here. If that's not relevant and you want to sort of choose your own image, what you can do is click the plus icon here and upload a custom image. And this is where it gives you access to your media library, where you can mass import sort of existing sort of content that you've got, or brand images or brand videos or PDFs, whatever that content might be, that you can then include directly in your post. So for our example, we'll just do that. If you want to remove the sort of the link preview entirely, you can just click remove preview, and that will just show the link as it is, like that. There is an integration with tinyURL. So what you can do here is, if you click add shortened link, you can, if you've got a really long link that's maybe to a content, or that's hosted, maybe a PDF, something like that, hit the URL in, that will then shorten it to a sort of tiny URL. You can add the UTM codes here as well. So where we were looking at in the accounts, that you say, if a piece of content goes out from this account or this channel, append these as the default UTMs. You can click to use default here if it's available, and it will choose those by default, or you can choose sort of personalized one for this specific link. So maybe the source or the campaign is going to be different for this piece of content. This is where you will personalize it just for that piece of content. You've then got tags, so you're able to mark this content or this post with certain tags there. So as long as you've added them within the settings, they're going to appear in this drop down. They might be relevant for multiple tags. You might just have one of them. This might be a campaign name. It might be a keyword, B2B, B2C, whatever it might be. You can choose multiple ones here. Something to note on here is, on the content calendar, you saw on the left-hand side of each of the content, there was a sort of small strip similar to this with the color of it. What that's going to show is the first tag that's within the post. So we'd always recommend to make the first one your predominant one. So if it's the campaign name and that's the one relevant to see in the content calendar, then choose that one. If it's a different one, or you're not too worried about it, choose any order. So we'll just choose those. One thing I didn't mention as well is, on the right hand side here of the actual content window, you've got the sort of the constraints and the limitations of the channels that you're choosing to post to. So a prime example here is we're going to Facebook and LinkedIn. If we had a really long post, I doubt you're ever going to reach sort of 3,000 characters, but if you did, LinkedIn allows less characters to be posted than Facebook does. So that's where, if you're running out of characters for a certain channel, maybe you'll have to create a different post for LinkedIn, or a different post for a different piece of content for Facebook. The final thing we're going to look at here is the targeting. So if we give that a second to load up, so I access that by clicking settings. By default, we're in the preview. And then if we step through to targeting, this is a feature that's available for both Facebook and LinkedIn. So when you're posting to each of those channels, on the right hand side, you can see you've got two different tabs, one for Facebook and one for LinkedIn. This allows you to really choose who this content's going to be going out to. So if you haven't got any targeting set up, it's going to go out to anybody that is sort of relevant to see that post. But maybe you want to filter it down for a certain demographic of that person. It's not going to be 100%. It's really depending on if Facebook or LinkedIn has that user for that, has that data for the individual that's sort of going to be seeing it. But for LinkedIn, for example, if let me click on it. Okay, why that's not loading. But LinkedIn is a good one. You can choose like sort of the company size of the individual, or the industry of the person. So if you're you've got a sort of a social campaign that's really targeting a specific group of people, that is going to be more relevant. You're going to get more return if it's sort of shown to to that demographic, that's where you can choose the audience and filter down who you're going to send to, which is good. The final thing then is you've got your content all set up, you've got the sort of the accounts you want to send it to, you've chosen your targeting, you're ready to schedule it or to publish it. By default, you can choose publish. That will go, if you've got the roles and the permissions, obviously, that's going to go straight away and it's going to publish it to the channels that you've got selected. Alternatively, you've got a few different options. So publish now is the default. You could choose to schedule it. So if you want to sort of be really prepared and sort of proactive and get all of your content ready for the next month, or sort of a campaign that you've got running next month, you want to have sort of the content ready for, you can choose different dates that you want to send out. So different dates and times. That might be multiple different times. Maybe you want the same post to go out once a week or once a month. So you can schedule that for the future. You click different accounts as well. So this post is going out to both my LinkedIn and the Spotler store. If you've got this piece of content and different times going out, maybe we don't want it to go out to my LinkedIn at this time, but we do want it to go out to the Spotler store. Likewise, we don't want the Spotler store to get it next week. We only want us to get it this week and another user or another channel to get it the following week. So you can really sort of deep dive into how you want it to be scheduled. You can save those. The other options you've got is if you want to save it as draft. So maybe you're not too happy with a piece of content, maybe you want to sleep on it or sort of just make a start on it and sort of finish off later. You can always choose to save it as a draft, and we'll look shortly as where you've got the draft and the draft library that you can sort of continue on from where you started. Workflow will come back in a second, but that's depending on the user and sort of how you set it up. If you don't want different users to be able to sort of publish or schedule content, you can choose a content approval workflow, which will then go to a manager who can approve the content and approve the time before it's sent out to that channel. Down here, you've got a tick box which says automatically add this message to the content library after it's published. So if we chose to publish now or schedule it in the future, if this is a piece of content that we think, yeah, we really like this, we want to reuse it, maybe it's more in a template format that you want to reuse in the future, just sort of changing a few of the keywords or changing it very slightly, a small tweak, you can choose to add it to the content library. And again, we'll look at that in a second, how the content library fits into this. You can then just start from there. So rather than starting from fresh, you can just choose to sort of reuse one of your pieces of content, which will then reload it into this format, and you can tweak it accordingly. So for this, we are just going to publish it. And what we can see is, let me move this annoying widget again. On the 25th, now that we've scheduled those two pieces of post, we can see for both channels and the content. If we click into this, you can see the content that we did schedule to go out. You can see the status, so it was posted, so when it was posted, what date and what time, the content of it, and the tags that we gave it. If you want to delete it from the platform, you can choose to do that as well, or you can view the content of there, which just opens it up. This is more relevant if you've got a large post. It's going to cut it off and only show you the beginning. View content will show you the rest of it. You can also do that for previous posts as well. So if you've got you want to see content that went out on a certain date in the past, you can click onto any of those and see that. Likewise, with any future ones, maybe you scheduled it rather than publishing it straight away. You have to see the content. You can change the time that it's due to go out. Maybe you need to push it back slightly or pull it forward. You can change that. You can choose to publish it straight away. So that will publish it sort of at this time right now. You can choose to edit the content, which will bring up the content window here. So exactly the same on the screen. You can just choose to update and schedule it, or update and publish it straight away. And yeah, that's pretty much the content calendar there. What we're going to next go on to is the draft. So one of the options we had was we could either choose to publish it, we could choose to schedule it, or we could choose to save it as a draft and continue it at a later date. Anytime you choose the option of saving it as a draft, it's going to appear in this draft section on the left-hand side. So these are all the drafts that sort of we have in our account at the moment. You can click any of these. You can choose to delete it. Maybe you decide that this isn't something that we want to post, and you can just delete it from the draft section, or you can choose to edit it, which will then bring back up this screen. You can then choose to update it, or you can choose to publish it now or schedule it. Just pick up exactly where you left off. Drafts have the ability to be tagged as well. So it's not just pieces of content. If you do have it tagged, you can then use the filters on the left-hand side. Maybe you only want to see drafts for a particular account or a particular platform, or that were done from a certain user. And more importantly is the tags. So if you've tagged it with maybe a B2B, you want to see all of your B2B drafts that you need to sort of pick up and resume, you can do that within the tag section there. And again, likewise, you can expand to see the content rather than just seeing the sort of the basic there. More relevant when you've got a large piece of content that's going to be cut off in the main view. Secondly, from the drafts, you've got the content library. So the option we had, which you can see again here, which is automatically add this message to the content library after it's published. Anytime a message does go out and you have that option ticked, it's going to appear in the content library. So all of the pieces of content that we've published and sort of chosen that option for are visible on the right-hand side. You can see the content, sort of who did the draft, did the piece of content. You can reuse as a new message. So if I think, yeah, this is perfect, this has 95% of what I want to do, I just want to tweak it slightly, I can just click reuse as a new message. That will then bring it up into this. It will include all the tags, it will include all the content that I can just add the account, publish it, and I'm good to go. If you have a piece of content in the library that's no longer relevant, maybe it's for a really old campaign or for an old service that you offered, you can choose to delete it. So it's always we'd always recommend to keep it nice and organized and tidy within your content library, just to make it sort of easier to navigate and easier to use. The final thing we're going to look at before we go to statistics is the media picker. So like we saw when we were creating the post or the content, it brought a pop-up which looks exactly the same as this. Maybe you can access that via the media picker. So this is where you would upload and choose all of the content or sort of the collateral, the branding you have externally, upload into the platform, just to make it easier when you are sort of adding the media to your content or your posts. You can choose to delete certain pieces of media as well. Maybe stuff that again isn't relevant for now. Maybe it was a legacy thing you offered. This is where you can choose to delete those. Lastly, we are going to look at statistics. So if we click in statistics on the left-hand side, it brings up a nice dashboard. And what I'm going to do is just change it, just to make it a bit more relevant. Okay, cool. So this is a dashboard that comes out of the box with the publishing module. So at the top, you can see an overview. So this will show you all of the different accounts that you've got connected up. You can see how many fans, followers they've got, sort of how many followers have been sort of gained since launching, or sort of since sort of connecting the account. So you can see the growth you've got, how many engagement you've received, how many impressions, how many times people have seen your post. Is all going to be able to see there. You can compare the different sort of platforms or channels you've got against each other. Some nice graphs here, such as the content type. So what sort of type of message or content are you sending, whether it's text, whether it's video, whether it's image, such a breakdown of those. You can see all the engagement on your posts over time. So the clicks, shares, comments, and likes. You can also change each of these graphs to a different type. So maybe you don't like line charts, maybe you want to see it in a pie chart. You can change those as well. Maybe a column is going to be more sufficient. Scroll down, you're going to be able to see all the impressions you've got, your sort of fan follower growth. Unfortunately, our account doesn't have any fans or followers, so you're not seeing the content there. But for you guys, you'll be able to see those graphs and that data in a graphical format. And then lastly, all of the posts or the content pieces that you've got scheduled to go out or that have gone out, you're able to see down here how many likes they've got, their sort of overall engagement, so likes, comments combined, how many comments, impressions, shares, clicks, all of that data. You can, all of these pieces of data you can choose to export to CSV. So maybe you've got a sort of external system, Power BI or anything like that, other dashboards that you want to take the raw data from all of the results that sort of publishing or SpotlerSocial has been able to collect and upload it into your system. You can do that, no problem. On the left-hand side is the filtering. So exactly the same as you've probably seen within the other sections of publishing. You're able to choose the date range that you want. So maybe you're focusing on sort of last month. You need to produce a report on how well your social platform did, or your social content did for the last month, or maybe in January or over the last year. You can filter down and only show the results for that particular time. Platforms, maybe you're only interested in Facebook and want to differentiate your Facebook results to your Instagram results. That's how you can choose those. Again, all of the different accounts that you've got access to are going to be shown within this screen here, or this drop down. You can choose one, you can choose many. Tags is yeah, a really powerful thing. If you're tagging your content with certain campaign names, certain sort of categories of content, this is where you can then filter it and say, I only want to see the results for a B2B, or maybe one of your newsletter content, or whatever the content type might be. You can then filter and show only the results applicable to that tag or to that category. That is it for the base publishing. Next, I want to go back to the workflow or the content approval side of things. So at the top right, we can go to workflow. If we create a new workflow, let's call this publishing content approval. There's a couple of things you need to choose here. So what this workflow is setting up is, if you want, if you've maybe got a sort of an intern, or maybe a new user that you want to be able to come into the platform, access it, design your content, do all of that, but don't necessarily want them to be able to publish or sort of have the authority to send out and schedule that content. Maybe you always want that to run through yourself or a marketing admin. This is where you can come, and this will remove that publish, remove that schedule option from that user, and instead they will need to ask for approval using this workflow. So the first thing you need to do is say, who does this apply to? So if you say anybody who's got the marketing user, you don't want them to have to be able to sort of schedule or publish the post. So anybody with the marketing user for the publish module. So you can also have it on WebCare, which we'll go through in one of the later sessions, how the same kind of theory, but in terms of comments. Maybe you don't want somebody to be able to reply to one of your comments. You want that to go through a manager, and say anybody with a marketing user, if they're going to schedule a post or publish a post, who needs to approve it? So sort of basic example, any marketing user needs to get permission or authority from a marketing admin before it posts. So if we save that, and that is created, if we go back to the publishing module, I'm logged in as marketing admin, so it's not going to be able to show that now, but you get the idea. You're going to have a workflow here, which, depending on the user that's logged in, if I'm logged in as a marketing user, I will then have all of these other grayed out options, and this I will need to say ask for approval. That will then go through that workflow. It will go through to sort of who they need to get approval from, which is the marketing admin. So yourselves, they'll get a notification saying somebody has requested approval on this piece of content. You can then click through on that notification within the platform and say yes, no, or whatever you want to do. If you want to decline it, or you want to make a sort of suggestion of a change, then you can do that. If we go back to the content calendar, what you're going to see is any post that is awaiting approval is going to be highlighted in orange. So if we click into this, you can see the content is planned after approval on there. So what the user or the intern can do is say, we want this post to go out at 10 a.m. next Wednesday. but only after approval. So if there's no approval on that post or that piece of content, then it's not going to be sent out and it's not going to be delivered to the platform. It's going to wait until it's been approved, until the sort of the marketing admin said, yep, happy for that. That will then change from orange to the standard color of the channel, and that will go out as usual. You can also filter it down. So you've got the message type on the left-hand side. So only show the ones that are awaiting approval, and that will filter it down accordingly, which is nice and easy to visualize and to see. That is everything within publishing. So hopefully that gives you a bit more insight, and sort of now you know how to use some of the features and at least start to sort of get to grips with sending out your first piece of content.